Ethan Hale sat with his 10-year-old daughter, Lila, inside the Solaris Diner, a small place built under the glowing dome that covered the lower districts of Neo-Astra City. The diner was warm, bright, and always filled with the smell of frying noodles and spicy broth, something Lila loved. It was a perfect place for a quiet evening, far away from the noise of the floating highways and neon advertisements outside. Ethan liked the diner because it reminded him of the old world: real tables, real waiters, and real food instead of printed meals. After years of serving as a space rescue pilot in dangerous missions, he appreciated simple things now. He wanted peace. He wanted a normal life for Lila, and so far, he had managed to give her at least that. Lila swung her feet under the booth seat, happily eating her noodles. "Dad, can we get dessert after this?" she asked with a hopeful smile. Ethan smiled back. "Only if you finish your dinner. No leaving the vegetables behind." Lila groaned dramatically, pushing the vegetables aside and stirring them back into the noodles. "Fine," she said, but her eyes were bright. Ethan laughed quietly. Moments like this made him forget the past, forget the missions, the dangers, and the endless alarms. He was just a single dad, enjoying dinner with his kid, but peace never lasted long, especially in Neo-Astra. The diner door opened with a soft chime, and a woman stepped inside. She wore a long, dark coat that shimmered faintly under the lights, as if woven with tiny silver threads. Her hair was tied back neatly, yet something about her made her stand out. She moved carefully, scanning every face around her. Ethan noticed her right away. Years of training had made him sensitive to danger. The woman wasn't just being cautious, she was scared, trying not to look scared. Her eyes darted toward the windows, then to the door again. She sat at a table near the back, her hands trembling slightly as she picked up the menu. Lila looked over her shoulder. "She looks nervous," she whispered. Ethan nodded slowly. Maybe she's waiting for someone, but he didn't believe his own words. He saw too much tension, too much alertness. Whoever she was, she did not feel safe. Minutes passed. The woman kept checking the entrance, chewing her lip, breathing fast. Her food came, but she hardly touched it. Ethan tried to focus on his own meal, but he couldn't relax anymore. Something was off. Instincts like his didn't fade with time. They only grew sharper. Then the door opened again. 2 men stepped inside. Not normal men, corporate enforcers. Their uniforms looked like plain clothes at first glance. But Ethan saw the armored layers under the fabric. He saw the side holsters, the wrist devices for scanning, the dark earpieces. Everything about them screamed danger. They didn't look around for a table. They scanned the room. Their eyes locked onto the woman. She froze. Ethan felt his muscles tighten. He glanced at Lila, who sensed his change in mood. "Dad," she whispered. "Stay calm," he murmured. "And stay in your seat." The 2 enforcers walked straight to the woman's table. One of them spoke in a low, hard voice. "Miss Vale, you need to come with us." The woman's voice shook as she answered, "I already told your people I'm not going back. Leave me alone." Her words were brave, but Ethan could hear the fear behind them. The first enforcer leaned closer. "You don't have a choice." He reached for her arm. She pulled back quickly, knocking over her cup. The sound echoed through the diner. Other customers looked up but immediately looked back down. No one wanted trouble with corporate enforcers. Ethan sighed internally. He knew he had a choice. Ignore the situation and protect Lila from danger, or step in and help a stranger who clearly needed it. He looked at Lila again. Her small hand slid across the table and took his. Her eyes wide but trusting. Ethan squeezed her hand gently, then stood up. The enforcer grabbed the woman's arm again. She struggled, trying to pull away, but the man's grip was strong. "Stop resisting," he snarled. "That's enough," Ethan said from behind him. The enforcers turned. One raised a brow, unimpressed. "This is not your concern. Sit down." Ethan stepped forward calmly. "Let her go. She doesn't want to leave with you." "This is a corporate matter," the second enforcer said sharply. Return to your table. Oh. Ethan didn't move. The first enforcer sighed. Move aside. Now. Ethan gave a small, almost apologetic smile. I'm trying to enjoy dinner with my daughter. I'd prefer not to cause a scene. The enforcer shoved him. It was a mistake. Ethan reacted with speed that shocked the entire diner. He grabbed the enforcer's wrist, twisted it, and pushed the man's shoulder down. The enforcer stumbled. Dropping to one knee, the second enforcer reached for his stun baton, but Ethan kicked the table toward him. The table's metal edge slammed into the man's legs, knocking him off balance. His baton clattered across the floor. The woman stared in shock. How did you? Later, Ethan said quickly. Are you all right? She nodded shakily. Lila watched from the booth, eyes wide but trusting her father completely. Ethan gave her a quick, reassuring glance. The first enforcer rose again, anger burning in his eyes. You're making a big mistake. Ethan kept his voice calm. No. You're trying to take someone who clearly doesn't want to go. The second enforcer lifted a wrist device and muttered into it. Back up, code 5. Ethan moved before he could finish. A quick strike to the arm made the device fall. A follow-up kick sent the man back into the wall. The diner owner peeked from behind the counter, terrified. Customers ducked behind chairs and booths. The woman grabbed Ethan's sleeve. They'll send more. Closed. I know, Ethan said. He helped her toward the side exit. Come on, Lila. With me. Lila ran to him, clutching her small backpack. The trio slipped out of the diner into the narrow alley beside it. The air was cooler there. The sounds of the city louder. Neon lights glowed above them, reflecting off puddles on the ground. Who are they? Ethan asked, as they hurried away. The woman shook her head. I can't explain. Not here. Not now. That won't help me keep my daughter safe, Ethan said firmly. She looked at Lila, then back at him. I promise I'll explain everything, just not in the open. They moved quickly through the alleys, weaving between delivery drones and parked hover bikes. Behind them, they heard distant shouts and the metallic stomp of incoming enforcers. We need to split up, the woman said suddenly. If they catch you with me, you'll be in danger too. Ethan shook his head. Too late for that. No, please. I can lead them away. She stopped, turning toward Ethan with desperate eyes. You don't understand who I am. Ethan hesitated. Her fear was real. Her words carried weight. Whoever she was, whatever trouble followed her, it was big, but leaving her alone was not an option. I don't care who you are, he said quietly. You needed help. That's enough. She stared at him for a long moment, then nodded slowly, her voice trembling. Thank you. Sirens echoed from the street ahead. More enforcers. They were closing the area. This way, Ethan said, leading them into a maintenance tunnel he used to take shortcuts when rushing Lila to school. They ran through the narrow passage until they reached a quiet service exit behind an overgrown garden patch. This should buy you time, Ethan said, but you need to disappear. The woman held her coat tightly. I will. And thank you for saving me. I owe you more than you know. Just stay safe, he replied. She gave Lila a soft smile. You have a very brave father. With that, she slipped away into the shadows of the city. Ethan and Lila stood together in the dim light, breathing hard. Dad, Lila whispered. Are we in trouble? Ethan looked down the path where the woman had vanished. I hope not, but deep down, he knew the truth. Someone important had walked into his life tonight, and danger was right behind her. He picked Lila up gently. Let's go home. They walked away, unaware that high above them, several unmarked drones were already tracking their movements. Someone knew Ethan Hale's name now, and they would not forget it. The next morning, Ethan Hale woke to the soft hum of the city outside his apartment. Lila was still asleep, curled up under a warm blanket, her small fingers clutching her favorite stuffed robot. For a moment, Ethan allowed himself to forget the events of last night. The woman, the enforcers, the sudden rush of fear, and adrenaline, but he could not ignore it for long. As he brewed coffee in the small kitchen, he noticed something strange through the window. A sleek, black grav car hovered silently above the street outside, its glossy surface reflecting the neon light. It was the kind of vehicle used by the city's wealthiest residents, the kind few ordinary people could afford. Ethan frowned. He had never seen it before. He wasn't expecting visitors. And yet, there it was, perfectly still, as if it had been waiting for him. Lila stirred behind him. "Dad! Who's that?" she mumbled, rubbing her eyes. Ethan motioned for her to stay inside. "Stay here. Don't look out the window." He stepped out onto the balcony, squinting at the grav car. The door opened smoothly, almost silently, and a figure stepped out. Ethan's first thought was that it must be a highly trained human. But then he saw the almost perfect movements, the flawless posture. This was no ordinary person. It was an android, sleek, professional, and clearly built for efficiency. The android approached the building, stopping at the door with a gentle bow. It spoke in a calm, modulated voice. "Mr. Ethan Hale?" Ethan straightened, alert. "Who's asking?" "My name is Cade. I have come on behalf of Miss Lysandra Vale." The name froze him in place. Lysandra, the woman he had rescued at the diner. Ethan felt his chest tighten. "I don't know what you're talking about. She's gone. Leave us alone." Cade's expression remained neutral. "She requested that I find you. She is safe, but she requires your help and your discretion. I can explain more inside, if you will allow me." Ethan weighed his options. He had no idea who this Lysandra truly was, or why she had sent a machine to his door. But one thing was certain. She had been in real danger yesterday, and those enforcers would not give up so easily. Lila was still asleep inside. He could not ignore this. "Fine," he said slowly. "But just talk. No funny business." Cade inclined its head. "Understood." Ethan opened the door. Cade stepped in, moving with mechanical precision. Yet its presence felt oddly calm. The android's voice was quiet but clear. "Mr. Hale, I will explain everything. Miss Vale is the heir to Vale Tech Industries, one of the largest tech corporations in the solar system. Until recently, she was hidden from the public for her protection. She discovered that her board of directors planned to weaponize an artificial intelligence she created, turning it into a tool for control over entire planetary colonies." Ethan blinked. "Weaponize AI? That sounds bad." "Extremely," Cade replied. "Miss Vale fled the corporate headquarters to prevent the plan from being executed. If she had failed, the consequences for humanity could have been catastrophic." Ethan's mind raced. He had never been involved in anything like this. Space missions, rescues, and danger were one thing, but this? A corporation with enough power to control planets? "Why are you telling me this?" Ethan asked. "Because you saved her life," Cade said simply. "And because the board now knows who helped her. That puts you and your daughter at risk." Ethan felt his stomach tighten. "Risk? My daughter? Lila?" Cade nodded. "Yes. That is why I am here. Miss Vale has authorized me to provide protection and guidance. She wishes to meet you personally, so that she can explain the situation in detail and enlist your help, if you agree." Ethan's mind flashed back to the diner. Her face, the fear, the way she trusted him without question. Somehow, despite the danger, he knew she was not lying. Somehow, he believed her. "Okay," he said finally. "We can talk. But not here. Too risky." Cade's eyes flickered faintly. "Agreed. I have prepared a secure location for the meeting." By mid-morning, Ethan had Lila in the grav car, strapped safely into her seat. She was still sleepy, but curious about the black vehicle that moved silently over the city streets. "Is this like a flying car?" she asked, her eyes wide. Ethan smiled. "Yes, but it's very fast. And very quiet. Just like Cade here." The android drove with precision. navigating the crowded skyways effortlessly. Ethan observed the city from above the neon signs, the towering spires, the endless streams of people and drones. Everything felt alive and dangerous at the same time. They arrived at a high-level district, far above the pollution and chaos of the lower city. The buildings here were tall and clean, shining under the sunlight. Cade led them to a secure chamber inside one of the upper spires. The doors closed automatically behind them. Lysandra Vale was waiting. She looked different from the diner, her hair loose, her coat gone, dressed in simple yet elegant clothing. But her eyes carried the same intensity. "Ethan Hale," she said, her voice calm but firm. "I owe you my life." Ethan nodded. "You're alive. That's what matters. But I need to know why me. Why did you come to me?" She walked slowly toward him. "Because you acted without hesitation. You protected me without expecting anything in return. That kind of courage is rare, Mr. Hale. I need people like you. People who can think, adapt, and act in ways machines cannot. And right now, we have very little time." Ethan looked at her, confused. "What do you mean? What's happening?" She sighed and looked away. "My board has been planning this for years. The AI I created, it can control entire planetary colonies, but if misused, it could enslave millions. They wanted to activate it quietly, using me as a pawn. I escaped, but they will not stop until they regain control. And now they know you helped me. You and your daughter are in danger." Ethan felt a cold weight settle in his chest. "Danger? How? Are we talking corporate security, or worse?" "Much worse," Lysandra admitted. "They have resources most people cannot imagine. Drones, private enforcers, mercenaries. They will not hesitate to harm anyone who stands in their way." Lila, who had been quiet, tugged at Ethan's sleeve. "Daddy, are we going to be okay?" Ethan knelt down to her level. "I promise, Lila. I'll keep you safe. That's all that matters right now. Okay?" Lila nodded slowly, trusting him completely. Lysandra turned to Cade. "Show him the details." Cade activated a holoscreen in the room. Maps, schematics, and security feeds appeared, showing locations of corporate facilities, patrol drones, and the enforcers who had chased Lysandra in the diner. The complexity was staggering, but Ethan focused on the patterns. He realized one thing quickly. Despite all the technology, despite the vast power and wealth of Lysandra's enemies, they relied heavily on predictable algorithms and strict protocols. Humans, on the other hand, could improvise, adapt, and make decisions under pressure. That realization gave Ethan a strange sense of hope. "So, you want me to help stop them?" Ethan asked, looking from Lysandra to Cade. "Yes," Lysandra said simply. "But only if you are willing. I will not force anyone." Ethan took a deep breath, thinking of Lila, of the diner, of the fear in her eyes. He could not turn away now. Not when lives, including his daughter's, were at stake. "I'll help," he said finally. "But I do this for my daughter. First and foremost. Nothing else." Lysandra smiled faintly. "That is more than enough. We will start immediately. Cade will assist you, and I will provide whatever resources you need. Time is critical." For the next hour, Lysandra and Cade explained the plan. Ethan listened carefully, asking questions, learning about secure communication methods, stealth tactics, and intelligence gathering. It was overwhelming, but also exhilarating. He had been a space rescue pilot, and while this was different, it reminded him of the thrill of missions, the rush of thinking fast under pressure, and the responsibility of protecting others. By the end of the briefing, Ethan had a small device attached to his wrist, an encrypted communicator, and a clear understanding of the dangers ahead. Cade would remain with them, not just as a guide, but as a protector and source of intelligence. Lila looked at Ethan nervously. "Daddy, are we really safe?" Ethan smiled reassuringly. "For now, yes, we'll stay careful, and you'll see, everything will be fine." But deep down, Ethan knew life would never be the same again. Last night's rescue was only the beginning. Someone powerful had walked into his life, and now he was part of something much bigger than himself. Something that could change the course of many lives, and he had no choice but to face it head-on. Outside, the city continued to hum, unaware of the small human story unfolding high above, where courage, trust, and determination would soon clash with greed and power. Ethan looked at Lila and Lysandra and made a silent promise. No matter what came, he would protect them, and he would not fail. The next day, Ethan woke early. The city outside was already alive, the soft hum of flying cars and distant construction filling the air. Lila was still asleep, wrapped in her blanket, the morning sunlight filtering through the window. For a moment, Ethan wished life could return to normal. But he knew better. Yesterday's events had changed everything. He finished his breakfast quietly, listening to the faint clicks and whirs of Cade moving around the apartment, organizing small things, checking security protocols, and silently observing the surroundings. Even though Cade was an android, Ethan felt comforted by its presence. There was no fear, no hesitation, only careful logic, something he realized he needed now. "Daddy," Lila said as she rubbed her eyes, "are we going to the Sky City today?" Ethan smiled, ruffling her hair. "Yes. But it's a safe place. You don't have to worry." "I do." Wary, Lila nodded, trusting him completely. And that trust gave him courage. By mid-morning, Cade had arranged for a discreet transport to the upper spires, far above the lower city's pollution and chaos. The vehicle was sleek and silent, moving as if it were a shadow sliding over the city. Ethan glanced down and could barely see the streets below. A maze of neon lights, traffic, and people oblivious to the danger that now followed him. As they ascended higher, Ethan felt a mix of awe and tension. The upper spires gleamed in sunlight. Tall buildings of glass and steel connected by floating walkways. Gardens and parks decorated the rooftops. Everything looked calm, clean, and orderly. It was a stark contrast to the chaos and danger of the lower city. "This is where she lives?" Ethan asked. Cade nodded. "Miss Vale's secure location is here." She requested a private meeting, away from all prying eyes and potential threats. Ethan leaned back in the seat. He didn't like the idea of entering someone else's world so completely, but he understood the necessity. If Lysandra Vale was to explain her situation fully, this was the safest place to do it. The grav car landed gently on a rooftop landing pad. The doors opened, and Lysandra was waiting. She looked different from the night at the diner. Her coat was gone, replaced by a simple yet elegant jumpsuit. Her hair was loose, framing her face, but her eyes were the same, alert, calculating, and yet carrying a trace of vulnerability. "Ethan Hale," she said, her voice calm but firm. "Thank you for coming." Ethan stepped out with Lila close behind him. "I need to know everything, Lysandra. No secrets. Why did they want you, and why are you in danger?" She looked at Lila and smiled softly. "First, thank you for keeping her safe. That is more important than anything else. As for why, it's complicated. But I will explain everything." She led them through a series of halls, quiet and empty, until they reached a room with large panoramic windows overlooking the city. The view was breathtaking, towering skyscrapers bathed in sunlight, floating gardens, and small transport drones moving like fireflies. Ethan set Lila down on a chair and sat across from Lysandra. Cade remained silently near the door. "I need you to understand," Lysandra began. "My family's corporation, Valetech Industries, is one of the largest in the solar system. Until recently, I was kept hidden, raised in secrecy to protect me from those who would exploit our technology. But I discovered that some board members planned to weaponize an AI I created." Ethan raised his eyebrows. "Weaponize AI? How bad are we talking?" "Extremely," she said. "The AI can control colonies, manage their resources, and manipulate infrastructure on a scale most people cannot imagine. In the wrong hands, it could enslave entire populations. I refuse to cooperate." And that's when I became a target. Ethan listened carefully. His mind raced. He had faced danger before, but nothing on this scale. Drones, corporate enforcers, even entire systems being used as weapons, it was overwhelming. And you came to me because? Ethan asked. Because you acted without hesitation, Lysandra said simply. You saved me without expecting anything in return. That kind of courage is rare. Humans, unlike machines, can adapt, think creatively, and act unpredictably. That is what I need now. Ethan felt a strange sense of pride but also fear. He had only acted instinctively, nothing heroic. But apparently, it mattered. Cade stepped forward, projecting a holographic map in the center of the room. It displayed locations across the city, highlighting board facilities, drone patrols, and surveillance points. Ethan's eyes widened at the complexity. This is where they operate, Lysandra said. This is where they are planning to activate the AI weapon. Time is critical. I cannot stop them alone. Ethan leaned closer to the hologram. And you want me to help stop them? Yes, Lysandra said firmly. But only if you agree. I will not force anyone. You are a father, and your priorities are your daughter's safety. But your skills and judgment are invaluable. Ethan looked at Lila, who was quietly listening. Her small hands clasped together. He made a silent promise to her. No matter what happened, he would keep her safe. That promise gave him clarity. I'll help, he said finally. But I do this for my daughter first. Nothing else. That is more than enough, Lysandra replied, a faint smile appearing. We start immediately. Cade will assist you, and I will provide whatever resources you need. But we must move carefully. Every mistake could cost lives. Cade nodded. Security measures are active. We have cleared this area from external monitoring. Your communications are encrypted. Movement is restricted to prevent detection. For the next hour, Lysandra and Cade explained the plan in detail. Ethan listened carefully, learning about secure communications, stealth tactics, and intelligence gathering. Each piece of information added weight to the reality of the mission. Despite the technology and resources at play, Ethan realized something important. Humans had an advantage. Machines did not. Humans could improvise, adapt, and make decisions under pressure. Machines relied on patterns, algorithms, and predictable protocols. That gave him hope. After the briefing, Lysandra gave Ethan a small wrist device. This will allow us to stay in constant contact, she said. It is encrypted and secure. Use it only when necessary. Ethan strapped the device on, feeling the weight of responsibility settle over him. He was not a corporate warrior. He was a father. Yet now, he was part of something much larger than himself. Lila looked up at him nervously. Daddy, are we really safe? Ethan smiled, trying to hide the worry in his own heart. For now, yes. We'll stay careful, and we'll watch out for each other. You'll see. Everything will be fine. He realized that life as he knew it had ended the night he saved Lysandra. The diner, the chase, the enforcers, all of it had led to this moment. Danger was no longer just a distant possibility. It was present, waiting in the shadows, testing their courage and determination. Lysandra watched Ethan and Lila. I know this is sudden, she said, but your bravery, your instincts, they are exactly what we need. And if we succeed, countless lives could be saved. End quote. Lysandra lives could be saved. Ethan looked out of the panoramic window, the city stretching endlessly below. He thought of the diner, the woman he had rescued, and now the responsibility he carried. Somehow, despite fear and uncertainty, he felt ready. Humans had survived in the harshest environments, from barren planets to deadly space missions. And he would survive this too. Cade's eyes flickered softly. All preparations are complete. We await your decision to move forward. Ethan looked at Lila, then back at Lysandra. All right, let's do this. But I have one condition. What is it? Lysandra asked. My daughter stays safe. No risks to her. She's my priority. That will be ensured, Lysandra said firmly. I promise. Ethan took a deep breath, feeling the tension in his chest slowly ease. The mission had begun, and though the road ahead was dangerous, he would not turn away. He would protect Lila, support Lysandra, and face whatever challenges came their way. Outside, the city continued to hum, indifferent to the small group preparing to change the balance of power. High above the streets, in the safe haven of the upper spires, a single father, his daughter, a billionaire heiress, and an android ally, prepared for the challenges ahead. Ethan looked at Lila and whispered, "We're ready. No matter what happens, we'll face it together." And for the first time since the diner incident, he truly believed it. The sun had barely risen over Neo-Astra City when Ethan Hale, Lila, Lysandra, and Cade began their first mission. The upper spires offered safety and comfort, but the danger below the corporate enforcers, drones, and AI-controlled systems waited patiently, ready to strike. For Ethan, the weight of responsibility pressed down more heavily than ever. Lila, sitting quietly in the grav car, glanced at her father. "Daddy, are we really going to stop them?" Ethan smiled, though it did not reach his eyes. "Yes, Lila. But we have to be careful. No rushing. No mistakes." Cade, sitting in the front seat, monitored all city communications and security feeds. Its eyes flickered faintly as it processed streams of data. Patrols are increased today. Enforcer presence is higher near the central district. Probability of encountering resistance is 78%. Ethan nodded. 78% is good enough for us. Let's move. They descended from the spires, moving in the quiet shadow of the city's upper levels. Their destination was a mid-level corporate facility where Lysandra had traced the Rogue Board's secret project. An AI hub capable of controlling energy grids and transportation networks across multiple colonies. As they approached, Ethan studied the patterns of drone movement, noting that they relied on predictable algorithms. Humans, by contrast, could improvise, and that gave them an edge. He would use it. "Here," Lysandra whispered, pointing to a narrow service entrance. "We can slip inside unnoticed." Once in, the AI hub is only 2 levels down. Ethan glanced at Lila, who gripped his hand. "Stay close," he said softly. She nodded, trusting him completely. Inside, the facility was cold and metallic, filled with the low hum of machinery. Holographic panels lit the hallways, displaying security logs and AI schematics. Ethan's old instincts as a space rescue pilot kicked in. He moved silently, scanning for threats, listening for the faintest sounds. "Stay calm," he whispered to Lila. "And remember, we are invisible." Cade led the way, disabling a few low-level security systems with precise movements. The android's efficiency amazed Ethan, but he knew one thing. Machines could predict, but they could not adapt as quickly as humans. That was their advantage. They reached the first control room. Ethan peeked inside. 3 human enforcers monitored the hub, unaware of their approach. "Wait," Ethan whispered. "Watch their patterns." He observed silently for a few seconds. Then, in a split second, he acted. Using his strength and speed, he knocked the first enforcer unconscious, sending him tumbling behind a console. The second enforcer reacted, but Ethan kicked a panel, causing it to crash and block his line of sight. The third enforcer dove for cover, and Lila's eyes widened in surprise. "Good work, Dad," she whispered. Ethan smiled faintly. "Keep quiet." Cade moved in to secure the remaining enforcers. "Neutralized," it said in its calm voice. "No casualties." They continued down the hallway, entering the AI hub. The room was massive, filled with glowing panels and servers humming with energy. The AI core stood in the center, surrounded by floating security drones. Lysandra's eyes narrowed. "They're ready to activate it. We don't have much time." Ethan studied the drones, noticing that they followed strict, programmed patterns. "I can get through them," he said. "Stay close." He moved with precision, ducking behind consoles, timing each step with the drone's movement. Lila followed, holding his hand tightly, trusting his every move. Cade covered them, providing calculated paths and warnings. Finally, they reached the central console. Lysandra placed her hands on the interface, her fingers dancing over holographic controls. "I can override the activation," she said. "But I need time." Ethan glanced at the approaching drones. "We'll hold them off." For the next few minutes, the group fought tirelessly. Ethan relied on his instincts and improvisation, moving faster and unpredictably than the drones could anticipate. Each strike, each movement, showcased the power of human adaptability over programmed machines. Lila watched her father in awe. He was not just a dad. He was a protector, a warrior, and a hero. Every movement he made was calculated, yet fluid, showing courage that went beyond training or technology. Cade provided precise information, directing Ethan to blind spots and vulnerable areas. But it was Ethan's ingenuity, his ability to improvise, that kept them alive. He rigged panels to block drone sensors, kicked loose wires to short circuits, and even used the hub's magnetic fields to slow approaching machines. "Almost there," Lysandra said, her focus unwavering. "Just a few more seconds, and I can shut it down." Suddenly, a loud alarm blared. Red lights flashed across the room. Reinforcements had arrived. Enforcers poured in from multiple entrances, and the AI's automated defenses intensified. Ethan glanced at Lila. "Stay behind me. No matter what, do not come out." She nodded, eyes wide but trusting. The battle escalated. Ethan moved with unmatched precision, using every ounce of strength, speed, and intuition to keep the enemies at bay. He dodged energy blasts, disarmed enforcers, and created opportunities for Lysandra to work. Cade provided calculated support, disabling drones and analyzing enemy patterns. Finally, Lysandra's fingers pressed the final sequence. The AI core flickered, then powered down. The room fell silent except for the hum of deactivated drones. Ethan exhaled, feeling the tension leave his body slowly. He glanced at Lila, who ran to him, hugging him tightly. "You did it, Daddy," she whispered. Ethan hugged her back, smiling. "We did it. Together." Lysandra stepped forward, placing a hand on Ethan's shoulder. "Without you, this would not have been possible. Your courage and quick thinking saved countless lives." Ethan shook his head. "I just did what I had to do. Anyone would have." "No," Lysandra said firmly. "Not anyone. Most people would have panicked, run, or waited for help. You acted. You protected. You fought. And you adapted. That is why I trusted you." Cade's voice broke the brief silence. "Threat neutralized. Probability of additional attacks low." Ethan looked around the room. Machines had their power, but humans had something unique. Intuition, creativity, and courage. And right now, humanity had won, but Ethan knew the battle was far from over. The rogue board might strike again, and Lysandra's enemies were resourceful. Still, this victory proved one thing. Humans, even a single father and his small daughter, could stand against overwhelming odds and succeed. Lila looked at him, eyes shining. "Daddy, we really did it." Ethan smiled, hugging her. "Yes, we did. And we'll keep doing it, as long as we have to." Lysandra stepped forward, placing her hand on Cade's metallic shoulder. "We owe you a great debt, Ethan. But this is only the beginning. There will be more challenges ahead." Ethan nodded, understanding the truth. Danger might never disappear. But for now, they had won. And that victory, small though it might be in the grand scheme of things, reminded him why humans were strong, resilient, brave, and capable of more than machines could ever predict. He glanced at Lila, Lysandra, and Cade. Together, they had faced impossible odds and succeeded. And together, They would continue to face whatever came next. Outside the facility, the city buzzed on, unaware of the small human story unfolding within. But Ethan knew that in this world of machines and technology, one thing remained constant: the courage, ingenuity, and determination of humans would always shine through. And for a single father and his daughter, that was more than enough. The city of Neo Astra was quiet that morning, a soft golden light reflecting off the upper spires. From above, it looked peaceful, clean, and orderly. But Ethan Hale knew better. Danger never truly slept. And the rogue board members, who had tried to weaponize Lysandra Vale's AI, were still out there. They had failed once, but they would not stop until they regained control. Ethan, Lila, Lysandra, and Cade gathered in the secure upper spire, planning their next steps. This time, they were not just reacting, they were taking the fight to the enemy. "We've shown them we can act," Lysandra said, her voice calm but determined. "Now it's time to remove the threat entirely. The AI project is deactivated, but the people behind it are still dangerous. They control resources, loyal enforcers, and systems across the city. We need to be smart." Ethan nodded. "Smart, yes, but we also need to be fast. The longer we wait, the more chances they have to regroup." Cade's eyes flickered softly as it scanned information streams. "I have identified the primary leaders responsible for the project. They are meeting at a secure location near the central spire. This will be their most vulnerable point. They will not expect a human-led intervention." Lila looked at her father, a mix of curiosity and concern on her face. "Daddy, we're really going to go after them?" Ethan knelt down, taking her hands gently. "Yes, Lila, but we'll be careful. And we'll do this together. I promise. No harm will come to you." Her small smile gave him courage. She trusted him completely, and that trust strengthened his resolve. They moved quickly, descending from the upper spires in a small, quiet grav car. Ethan's heart raced, not with fear, but with focus. He had faced danger before, but this was different. This was about more than just survival. This was about standing up for what was right, about protecting the innocent, and about proving that humans could overcome overwhelming odds. When they reached the target location, a heavily guarded corporate building near the central spire, Ethan studied the scene. Patrol drones moved in predictable patterns. Enforcers walked rigidly along programmed paths. But humans, he reminded himself, could adapt. Humans could improvise. That would be their edge. "Here," Lysandra whispered, pointing to a narrow service entrance. "It's not heavily guarded. We can enter undetected." Ethan nodded. "Lead the way. Lila, stay close." Inside, the facility was cold and metallic, echoing with the hum of machinery. Holographic displays showed security feeds, personnel schedules, and system alerts. Ethan moved silently, his senses alert. Every sound, every shadow, every movement mattered. They reached a hallway leading to the main control room. Two enforcers stood outside, talking quietly. Ethan studied them for a moment. Then, in a swift motion, he kicked a loose panel, creating a loud crash down the hall. The enforcers turned instinctively, and Ethan and Lysandra slipped past them, Lila following closely. Cade disabled the nearby surveillance cameras with precise movements, and they continued down the corridor. The main control room was ahead, filled with the rogue board members and their assistants. The room was large, with a central console controlling the city's systems and AI interfaces scattered around. "Remember," Lysandra whispered, "we need to neutralize them without alerting backup. Surprise is our advantage." Ethan nodded. He crouched, moving along shadows, watching the enforcers' movements. He calculated the timing carefully. Then, with precision, he moved. In a blur, he disarmed one enforcer and used a brief diversion to knock the second one unconscious. Lila's eyes widened, but Ethan gave her a reassuring smile. "Stay calm," he whispered. "We're almost there." Inside the control room, Lysandra accessed the main console. Her fingers danced over the holographic keys, overriding the system. "I'm shutting down all unauthorized operations," she said. "The AI project is permanently deactivated." Ethan glanced at the board members. They were panicking, realizing their control was slipping away. One reached for a communicator, but Ethan intercepted it, disabling the device. The room fell into controlled chaos, and human courage prevailed over mechanical precision. Cade moved swiftly, preventing the enforcers from regaining control. "Threat contained," it said calmly. Ethan looked around, watching the humans struggle with the reality of their failure. He felt a deep sense of satisfaction, not from violence, but from the triumph of human ingenuity and determination. Machines and predictable systems could not match the courage and adaptability of a determined human. That was humanity's strength. Lysandra finished her work and turned to Ethan. "We did it. The threat is neutralized." Ethan nodded, breathing heavily. He felt relief, but also pride. "We worked together. Humans can do amazing things when we need to." Lila ran to him, hugging him tightly. "Daddy, we really saved everyone." Ethan hugged her back, smiling. "Yes, we did, Lila. And we'll keep protecting each other. Always." Lysandra placed a hand on Ethan's shoulder. "You and your daughter have shown incredible courage. Without you, none of this would have been possible. Vale Tech will now be safe under my control. And the city and many colonies are safe because of your actions." Ethan shook his head. "I'm just a dad. I did what I had to do. Anyone in my place would have." "No," Lysandra said firmly. "Most people would have run or hesitated. You acted. You protected. You improvised. And you fought. That is why I trusted you. That is why I came to you." Outside, the city moved on, unaware of the quiet human victory that had taken place. But for Ethan, the lesson was clear. Humans, with their courage, creativity, and determination, could face even the most overwhelming odds and succeed. Technology could be powerful, but it was human spirit that truly made the difference. Days later, Ethan and Lila returned to their quiet apartment. Though their lives had changed forever. The city was safer, Lysandra's enemies defeated, and the AI project dismantled. Yet, Ethan knew that peace was fragile. Threats could emerge again, but he also knew they could handle them together. One afternoon, Lysandra visited their home. This time, not in a rush or under threat. She brought small gifts for Lila and thanked Ethan once again. "You've given me something I never expected," she said. "Faith in humanity, in courage, in everyday people who rise to extraordinary challenges." Ethan shrugged modestly. "I just did my best. That's all anyone can do." "But your best changed everything," Lysandra said. "For that, we are all grateful. I promise, your daughter will always be safe. And you will always have my support." Cade, standing silently in the corner, projected a small holographic map showing the city and its secured systems. Monitoring complete. No threats detected. Lila hugged Lysandra. "Thank you for trusting Daddy." Lysandra smiled. "No, Lila. Thank you for reminding me why people like your father matter. Courage, kindness, and love, they can change the world. Even against machines and power." Ethan watched his daughter's laughter, feeling a deep sense of accomplishment. He realized something important. Humans were not defined by technology, money, or influence alone. They were defined by their courage, their willingness to protect, and their determination to do what was right, even when the odds were impossible. And that day, he understood fully that a single father and his small daughter could make a difference in a world ruled by power, machines, and greed. As the sun set over Neo-Astra City, bathing the spires in warm orange light, Ethan looked at Lila and whispered, "We did it. Humanity did it." She smiled up at him, holding his hand tightly. "We really can do anything together, Daddy." Ethan nodded. Yes, Lila. Anything. And for the first time in a long while, he felt true peace. The city below was still alive, still chaotic, but for now, it was safe. They had fought, they had won, and they had proven that human courage, ingenuity, and love could overcome even the most impossible challenges. High above, the upper spires gleamed, a symbol of hope, resilience, and the human spirit. Ethan, Lila, Lysandra, and Cade stood together, ready to face the future whatever it might bring. Because humans, no matter how ordinary, could achieve the extraordinary. And they had.